When you walk in forests, there's something that's happening more than what you think. Did you think that there's a tree around here that you connect to? Hug it and see if you can have a connection to it.
I'm connected to it now.
You are.
But I was a little bit before.
Before. At what level are you connected to it? I mean, head or heart?
Well, my senses.
Your senses.
Just smelling the bark.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling it. Obviously, I've looked at it. But I'm also feeling quite friendly. There's a sort of the feeling that I associate with being friendly.
Yes.
With a person or with a dog or something like that. I'm getting hints of that.
Are you connecting to the tree, or is the tree connecting to you?
Both are happening.
Exactly.
I think it's not a binary.
Exactly. So what I'm pointing to earlier over here is that it's not you having an experience, it's you and the tree experiencing each other. So the tree's communicating with you, you could say. There's some kind of communication going on.
Yeah.
That's all I'm pointing to. There's a shifting in experience when you're touching the tree. And that shifting of experience is something that's happening between the two of you.
Yeah. It's tempting, of course, to anthropomorphize creatures and plants and stones and so on. One could easily go to the point of assuming what's going on in the tree. But for me, it feels most true that there's life here, just like here, and there's life in between. I don't know.
You can make a choice here, you see. You can say, the tree can't talk to me because it's not conscious.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that I'm just picking up some vibrations over here, and that's one way of dismissing the whole thing, of saying, oh, no, it's all nonsense. Or you could say, there is an experience that I'm having here. I feel something with this tree. There's a relationship that's going on. The tree and I are having a conversation.
Yeah.
Sheldrake, the great biologist, was being interviewed. The interviewer said, are you literally saying that you had a conversation with that rock? And Sheldrake said, no, but I had a conversation with the rock.
Closest we can get to this strange exchange is call it a conversation.
I feel different hugging that tree than if I stand over here away from the tree. There's a different experience. And that experience I'm having is my relationship that I'm having with the tree.
And I don't need to be able to name all the parts of that experience
for
it to be interesting and valid.
That's the trouble with the words. The words are what I call maps.
Yeah.
They're not the territory.
Yeah.
But we can go into the words and think them all through in a linear kind of way. Or we can say, I had a feeling around this tree. And I actually, to be quite honest, I think I even love this tree. And the tree seems to be loving me.
The second half of that, the tree seems to be loving me. For me, they're starting to assume what's going on.
It feels like that.
Tree.
All I'm saying is that there's a feeling, and I can't say it's my feeling or the tree's feeling.
Yes.
And a tree is healing. The Japanese have shown in forest walking that the blood pressure changes, the heart rate changes, and the changes can stay for days, even up to 3 weeks after just walking in a forest. It's an interesting process because we can intellectualize around it and try and separate it out. And then the magic disappears.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm making.
I have this in, my wife and I swim every early morning in the sea. And we have this thing that we don't know why we go into very cold water when one whole part of ourselves is saying, no, this is not smart. And then something happens in the presence of all that very live ocean.
Yes.
That is comparable to what we just did with the tree there.
Yeah.
There's an exchange that takes you out of the words and leaves me feeling bigger, more alive. And it's a heart thing.
I often say to people, you can choose to live life as if there's no magic, that there's no mystery in it all. It's hard facts.
Yeah.
Or You can choose to live life as if it's a mystery, that it's a great mystery, a great magic everywhere. The trees are alive and talking to me because I experience it.
But then people will think you're bonkers. This is the constraint, isn't it? They'll say, because we've got such a cultural bias towards science, just in the last
exactly
100, 200 years.
Yeah.
But boy, has it really locked us into that sense that if you stray from what can be pinned down scientifically, you are off with the fairies or with the religions.
Dogs that know when their master's coming home.
Yeah.
And people that know when they're being stared at.
Yes.
And then that lovely story of the elephants. You know, when that elephant whisperer died, 2 groups of elephants that were hundreds of kilometers away started to walk towards his burial site. They traveled for days to get to him.
Really?
And then stood at his grave for 2 days and then got up and walked away. So this whole question of intelligence around us, intelligence in nature, intelligence in the trees and the grass and the ground. You know, we talk about Mother Earth. There's a deep knowing about nature in a way that people are dismissing.
Our ancestors, who lived in a very different cultural framework, had access to those kinds of feeling and knowing that we have diminished in favor of thinking.
The thinking mind.
Yeah.
So the thinking mind has now captured our attention. And I think it's
dazzling,
true.
Isn't it?
I think thinking is probably the latest evolutionary add-on to human beings. I think it's true that that's probably what's happened, but it's taken over. And now we're trying to understand the world through thinking. And we've left behind the feeling and the knowing. And in doing that, we have also changed our sense of reality. Before, when people walked in the forest, they were touching the earth. They felt by the earth, a sense of community, a sense of something alive. And somehow we seem to have lost that. And for me, it's a sadness because it's also changed my profession, which is medicine. Moving away from the heart-centered into head-centeredness, which is the thinking mind, which is logic, which is mathematics, which is the science of medicine. What we've left out is experience. Chinese medicine is probably much older, but the first textbook was written 2,000 years ago. Hundreds and hundreds of textbooks written, but it's all based on experience. Because they didn't have the science that we understand today, which is the science of measurement. I used to run a group called the Bioenergy Group, and there were a whole lot of physicists and engineers. There was a German mathematician there. His name was Hans. He'd written a book on mathematics. And he once said to me, Bernard, what you've just said has got nothing to do with science. I said to him, Hans, if your relationship with your wife depended on science, you wouldn't be able to have one. You don't walk around with a textbook at home. Our lives are not dictated by science. Our lives are dictated by experience. The world we live in today, science of measurement dominates. Because it's so powerful. It's sending spaceships to the moon, and look at cell phones and AI and artificial intelligence. Look how powerful we are. Look how brilliant we are. But they've lost something along the way.
Is it your view, Bernard, that all that thinking and inventing and particularizing and measuring may not be wasted, but there's some retrieval and reintegration called for?
Good question, Peter. It's like the whole left brain, right brain conflict, you know. You need both. There's a bridge between the two. When I teach, I'm using maps all the time to use for teaching purposes. But I keep saying to the students, be careful, the map is not the territory. It hurts me the way modern medicine has gone, because modern medicine has taken the path of measurement. Only that which is measurable is real. That which is not measurable is not real, is subjective. And that's a question I sometimes ask my students, which world is more real, the objective world or the subjective world? Which one do you think?
I can't really divide them. They're both present.
In your experience, are they both present?
Well, actually, no, I don't experience the world through numbers and measurement. That's a sort of a extra curriculum brain activity, is going around measuring, gosh, this tree must be at least 30 meters tall. But that's not the first thing I experience when I see the tree.
The world that you actually experience is totally subjective. That tree that you're looking at over there is actually appearing, the photons have gone through your eyes into your head, and your head is seeing the tree, not your eyes.
Yeah.
I recognize that there is an objective component, but the world that you know is subjective. You have a possibility of changing the way you view it, because it's all subjective. But where science has gone and medical science has gone is saying that the objective world is real and the subjective world is not real, because it's difficult to measure.
Yeah. Your subjective world is a mystery to my subjective world.
So what science has done, the old science, the old Newtonian science, is that in order to be in control, we need to recognize that the world is objective. That part which is objective, we can measure, and we can test it, and we can subject it to all kinds of investigation.
Yeah.
So that's called the old Newtonian science. And modern medicine has followed that pathway and said, okay, only that which is measurable and objective is real, and the rest is subjective epiphenomena. Consciousness is, we can't measure consciousness, so let's leave it out of the story. We can't really measure emotion, so let's leave that out of the story. Psychiatry has said we can measure neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine, and that's emotions. There's no evidence for it. There's no proof of it. You can't inject people with dopamine and create emotional reactions. Reducing the human being to objective criteria that can be measurable. So they've been stuck then with the physical body.
Yes.
And chemistry.
Yeah.
And biochemistry. We've captured the human being into a space which is objective and measurable, and we can handle that. And the more narrow we make it, the better we feel in control. So we now have specialists that only deal with the heart or the intestine or the brain, and they are the specialists. And the specialist is highly regarded, much higher than the GP, who actually looks at the person as a whole, or tries to anyway. As you can see now, is we've got a medicine that has removed the magic, removed all that's so interesting about human beings, and reduced it to a body with chemistry which can be measured. We've classified ill health in the same kind of way. So we've classified ill health into parts, bits and pieces.